Well, good morning. It's 8 a.m. and it's great to see everybody at the intersection. I bet as each day passes and gets closer, to the end of the year, people are moving slower in the morning, I know Karen is, and I know that I am. So I'll just talk about the two of us, but just moving a little bit slower. So, this morning, we're going to be hearing from our city manager, Erik Walsh, as well as Mel Woosley, Department of Human Services, which this at the intersection and the faith-based initiative all falls within the Department of Human Services. So we're going to be hearing some updates from them, reports on surveys, but we'll give everybody just a little bit more time to get here. I'm wondering if there are any announcements that people want to share in these last couple weeks, or even at the first of the year, that we can wake up to on the other side, right? I'm wondering if folks were able to go last night to the memorial service, if anybody went to that for the homeless, those without shelter and their lives who have died in this past year. Did anybody go? I'd like to share with that. I wasn't able to go. I'm trying not to spread the flu bug. So doing my part to keep the world healthy here. Some announcements about the intersection next week. I've been putting that in emails, but County Judge Nelson Wolf will be with us. Quite possibly one of his last interviews, his last day of service will be the 31st of December. So he'll be with us on the 29th. And we're just going to have a conversation, probably some reflection, over these years that he has served our community. And then into January, we're going to do a series it's entitled, What's Our Story? It's different than what we've done before. It's in coordination with MLK Commission and Dream Week, but we're pairing together San Antonians that you might not necessarily put together. And at least the working theory, because we haven't done this before, the working theory is finding out a little bit about their personal lives and how that has shaped them into the work they're doing today. And perhaps in the discovery in that conversation, finding out that they have more in common than they might be perceived different, right? That common humanity. So anyway, I'll be sending out kind of a listing of those folks, and we've got people of different ages and different parts of the world. And so I look forward to the exploration that we're going to be doing together. And I see that our city manager is with us as well. We probably have a couple more minutes of announcement time, just to give more people some time to check in. Any other announcements? Okay, we'll do something else. I want to make sure we get enough people here for a good amount. We consider at the intersection kind of a conversation, like when you're at an actual street intersection and you're crossing and you see somebody you know how you have that kind of brief conversation, but it's like, hey, how are you doing? What's up? Or you might end up walking with them. So to start the conversation, why don't we, if any have thoughts to share, what things have come out of the intersection or the collaboratives that you've been working with? And we can just start that conversation so that Mel and Erik can kind of hear what's been going on out in the community. So if anybody would like to add to that, feel free to speak up or put something in chat. Doug, you certainly have something to share. What's happened?
Yeah.
Oh, look, it's nice.
Well, it's been the year that we all came out of COVID has been amazing. We had over 1,600 people attend the NAMI Walk this year, over 1,200 people attend Pathways to Hope, and over 400 new Bridges to Care Wellness Champions. It's been an exciting year, and it has been one of those years where you just didn't know how glad you were to see everybody until you were there in a big group. So all those are the product of a collaboration, much of which has come out of the faith-based initiative and the support that we've received from the city. So thank you.
It has been exciting for NAMI and the mental health movement. I see that Erica posted. Yeah, that's always good to see. For mental health, I have gained new partners in the faith community. That's good to hear. It's really good to hear. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Wendy, Interfaith San Antonio Alliance has been sharing the importance of affordable housing. Yes, we're really moving ahead on that campaign. And it's really exciting to have the Archbishop agreeing to be the champion for that campaign. Yay, it's good to hear. So it's 8:06. You can keep adding things like that into chat, things that you've witnessed over the last year that have come about through community collaboratives or making new relationships here at the intersection. But I'd like to now introduce our city manager, Erik Walsh. He recently put out an email about a community survey and the results of that. And I asked him if he would come to this intersection and share that information with everyone. Erik, could you tell us who does this community survey? Who sends it out? How often is this done? And then tell us what we learned from the survey. I see him there. Erik, are you with us? Because I can't hear you. And he might be setting up some, you know how tech goes. Some new things are happening. Still in chat. Peter, our ministry at New Life Christian includes K-12. Provided our ministry the opportunity to be awarded Homeland Security grant to for security, $150,000. It's great to hear. Erik, are you okay? Otherwise, we'll go ahead and we'll move to Mel while you might be figuring out technology. Mel, would you be willing to jump in? Mel gave a report on human services with the city, which is the department where I serve. Human services, it's not the same as resources, which is like personnel. Human services, though, Head Start, senior centers, that's how you might know human services. So Mel, did you want to go ahead? Would you be willing to give the report?
It looks like Erik's back, or Erik is at his desk now.
Okay. We're jumping around here. I'm telling you, Erik.
I moved from my truck to my office
Wow.
while you guys were talking.
Okay. Well, so I kind of asked the question about the community survey. How are those surveys issued? Who does that? And how often are they done? And what did we learn from this year's survey?
Yeah, thanks. And good morning, everybody. It's good to see everybody. It's been Anna's tried to have me on this show at least twice, and I think I keep pulling out at the last minute, but not because I don't want to be here, but because generally some other calamity happens. But thanks.
That doesn't happen to any of us. You know, that just kind of stuff happens to you, Erik.
It happens to everybody.
Everybody.
It's just that more people have my cell phone number. So
that's true. So tell us about the community survey.
Yeah, so every 2 years, and we've been doing it since the early 2000s. Every 2 years, we contract with an independent company who does mainly municipal surveys across the country. There are a number of firms that'll do that work, and we do it to get a scientifically valid, statistically valid, independent survey of customer service, customer expectations across the board, all of our services, whether it's police or the airport or economic development, code compliance, housing. And so we do it every 2 years, and we were scheduled to do it in 2020. And we held, because generally it's in the late spring, early summer. And that was not a good time to be doing surveys. And so we held and we resumed in 2022. And, you know, part of this effort, the reason why the city started it every 2 years, because in the off years, we survey with an independent company, our employees. And so the measures and the response that we get are critical. The other thing about this effort is that it allows us to compare to other cities. Many large cities do similar surveys. We're able to benchmark these surveys against every other large Texas city, as well as generally cities with over 250,000 and above population-wise. So in 2022, we did exceptionally well, and certainly I'm proud. And some of you were talking about, as we all came out of the pandemic, you know, things changed, and I can say that our overall satisfaction of city services, based on this survey, is the highest it's ever been since we started conducting the survey. City employees were rated extremely high for their customer service to residents. We rated first overall in overall satisfaction against every other major Texas city: Austin, Dallas, El Paso, Fort Worth. Houston's survey is still in progress, but I feel confident that we'll still be at the top. We saw huge increases in our department or service levels or service areas, business areas specifically increased. Public health had a 25% increase in overall satisfaction now, and that was the highest that we had. And certainly, everybody close your eyes. I see Erik on there, but everybody close your eyes and think back to 2019 and what your vision and feelings were about Metro Health and what they did, right? Certainly a critical part of our organization, but during 2020 and 2021, on the front line, sometimes nightly with the mayor and the judge. So no surprise that public health saw the largest increase, but we saw increases across the board in areas such as code enforcement and animal care. Public works saw an increase. Aviation, our airport, saw a 15% increase. So really a lot of double-digit increases. The top 3 rated services for the city were the fire and EMS. No surprise, since we've been doing it early in the 2000s. Everybody loves the fire department, and so that's no surprise. But we saw that library is now tied with the fire department, so they were one of our top 3. And then our coming in number 3 was satisfaction with solid waste collection and recycling. And so certainly the other part, the reason why we do this also is not only to gauge where we're doing well, but where we need to improve. And so now the takeaways for me were that we're targeting are the services that we saw, although we saw increases in satisfaction, from my perspective, they need to be a little bit higher. Code enforcement, public works, I mentioned, our sustainability efforts had a 59% overall satisfaction. I'd like to be able to get that up when we do that survey in 2024. And so I shared this with the council early in November, and we had the consultant come in and give his perspective and how we compared to prior surveys here in San Antonio and other cities. And so we're going to be doing that, and we'll have it on our website, kind of a dashboard that allows not only us, but the general public to dig into the data and be able to see where respondents lived, demographic data, and be able to drill down. We're going to use that to help narrow down and isolate and figure out how we improve for the 2024 survey. So certainly I know we do a good job, but I also know that there is no finish line in terms of all the different things we do. And I'll to be honest with you, I was very surprised at the magnitude of the increase, and maybe I shouldn't be surprised, but to outpace every other major city, forget about Texas, every other major city, most of which, according to our consultant and the contractor who does this, most cities saw decreases in customer satisfaction by their citizens. And that has a lot to do with a lot of the political aspects of our daily lives now, and feelings about the federal government that individuals might have. But at the end of the day, I met with, we have new employee orientation, and I went by and introduced myself to about 120 of our newest teammates, and told them whether individuals realize it or not, we touch everybody in this city every day, and the truth, and the same can't be said for the state or the federal government. So it is critical from a customer standpoint that we're doing our very best. So that's the report.
That's a good report. I wanted to, in this conversation, the newest community collaborative that we formed, they've met twice now, but is on sustainability, and working with Douglas Melnick. And the first time we gathered, it was the largest group of people who've ever come together on a community collaborative, the first time. So there's movement there with the faith community and nonprofits. We're working on it, man. So we'll see if we can help get that 59% up.
So that's great. And one thing that I didn't mention was that people that take the survey are randomly selected. So hopefully the people in your group get randomly selected in 2024.
We're trying to do our part. Does anybody have any questions or comments or thoughts that you would like to ask Erik at this point?
And this is Doug Beach. I have one question. If the manager could comment on the jobs program and how that's on.
I didn't hear the last part.
It's major investment by the citizens, the jobs program, partly the sales tax. So I was wondering how that's coming and what the prospects are.
So thanks, Doug, and good to see you. The Ready to Work program, which launched at the beginning of summer, is going well, and we have outpaced. Let me back up. We have 4 contractors who are helping fulfill the education and training requirements for those applicants, and we have outpaced the number of people that have applied. We're about 8,500 people have applied, and so our contractors, Alamo Colleges, WSA, Project Quest, and Restore Education, are going through those applications to insert people into training and education. But this is not, and this is a 5-year program. We'll collect about $200 million in sales tax, and we'll do that through probably December 2026 or 2027. But the key to this is making sure that we have employers lined up with jobs that either they're having a hard time fill, or they're expanding. And we have over 200 employers, big, small, and in between, that have committed to sharing their employment needs with the city. And in this program, the city's not doing anything but brokering the services. And this is not something that we will find ourselves in the position of doing forever. It's just a 5-year program. I'll tell you that my experience during the pandemic with job training, the city set aside about $60 million to help people get back to work, that the workforce training pipeline was kinked in multiple spots, and it did not result in people getting jobs. So the key to our program, Ready to Work, is making sure that we have employers who are literally saying, I'm having trouble hiring X. We take applicants through our contracted educational facilities, get them trained in X, and then having that employer hire those individuals. It's not just an education or a training program, which is a noble issue, a noble cause to raise the education level of San Antonio, but it is to only train and educate people for the jobs that those 200 employers are saying they need help with. And so we're 6 or 7 months into this program, and we got hit so fast with those 8,000 that it's taken on Alamo colleges and WSA to a little bit of time to get through them. But we've got a dashboard on our website that gets updated every 2 days and shows how many people are in the pipeline, how many people are in training, how many people have graduated and gotten a job. And so that's going to be a critical piece of this. And you know, I'm just thinking that if you think it's appropriate, it would be great to have Mike Ramsey here in January or February to really plug in the churches in the aspect of making sure that we get the marketing of this program. There is an element where we're going straight to the churches. So frankly, it might be good to talk to this group, have Mike come talk to this group.
Yeah, we had him come early on this year, but now would be a really good time to bring him back.
Yeah.
We got a couple more questions, but it's 8:22. So Beverly and Peter, we'll take your 2, and then we're gonna lob to Mel, because we try to get most of the meat in before 8:30.
Thank you so very much. And Mr. Walsh, I just have to just say this to you. You have a unique leadership style that has actually, I believe, is a great factor in that in how well the ratings have changed. There's a trickle down effect. And I say that to you because something I noticed just in working around you and being, I've watched that you actually make people feel like that they can be a part of something, because people will support what they help create. And I've seen you, even with our group, the ones who claim that they're your advisory council in the East Side. I laugh because they owned you and you made them feel like it was really that they were a part of something towards success. And I remember sitting in those meetings, people going, you guys, we have to get this done because we have to report out to Erik. That is a unique ability in people to have. And I really just have to say the success in bond election, the public safety, working with the chief to actually for the first time, well, really the second time, open up their asset forfeiture fund and contract with community organizations to work with crime prevention. Yeah. I mean, in the summer, we were able just to drop the juvenile crime rate in that area where that is really tough in the East Side by the old Wheatley courts by 42%, because we got kids involved and engaged and we paid them. And so I just got to say thanks and really for the compassion support. Mel Woosley does an amazing job. I don't know how she does it with everybody pulling at her all the time. You know, I don't even know how she has any hair left. So I congratulate her on just having hair, because there's just so much that comes out her. But I just want you to know that the tone and the tenor that you have set in your leadership style is working. And I for one, want to thank you for that. And you've actually, I just have to just say, I feel very comfortable in going after lots of other federal dollars, because I honestly feel that that we really have a collaborative system. And when we bring the money in, that we have a good chance of leveraging that money by working with the city. And in the past, I haven't necessarily felt that. So yeah. I just want you to know that what you're doing is working. So please don't stop.
Well, thank you, Beverly, and I appreciate the partnership. And we have a really good team. And you just pointed out, Mel, we have a really good team, and so and that's critical. And I know that it's important to make sure that we remember the collaborative nature of not only this organization but the community. And I'll tell you, I'll share with y'all that I talked to other city managers in other major cities. I talked to one last night, and I always feel a little, number one, I always feel a little bit better about my situation and our situation, because there are a lot of times where groups like you guys that are represented on this call, everybody's rowing in a different direction, and everybody's just got a different idea and not collaborative, and you know, I think that's what sets San Antonio apart, to be honest with you.
Peter.
Good morning, Eric. Thanks for being with us this morning, and I concur with Beverly wholeheartedly. Question: I'm on the CPS Rate Advisory Committee, and you recently at the B session presented a very collaborative work with CPS, and you said you did an inventory of all your sustainability programs, and I was really, I'm grateful for that work. And can you share some kind of best practices coming back to our group, just from what you gained from that collaborative inventory process? Because I know we have great collaboratives going on with this group here, and you're well aware of that, but how you might see that, much like what you were just leaning into about how collaboratives work.
Well, I'll tell you that I think the city and CPS are working better together than they've ever worked before. And you know, CPS is a municipally owned agency. They are we're the planet and they're a moon, right? But they're a separate entity. The city council does the three things for CPS and SAWS for that matter. One, they approve the board members. Two, they approve the issuance of debt. And three, and most importantly, they approve rates. And so the council has that, the city has that control. And part of what I said to the council last week is that there are things that it should be our obligation to make sure that we play a support role for CPS, and then things that we should take a lead on, initiatives we should take the lead on as a city, and they should be a support role. And so kind of what we laid out with the council last week was really the first stab at being able to do that. Too many times, and this has happened in the past, both the CPS and the city have had the same exact program. It may be called differently, but it's the same exact community program. And frankly, it doesn't make any sense. And there are things that should be appropriately housed here at the city. And I'll give you an example. We went through, we're going through a request for proposals to put solar panels, to see if it's beneficial from a business standpoint, to put solar panels on city parking lots and city properties in order to up the renewable energy usage of the city organization. I mean, think of all the buildings we have. And so we started down this path actually before the pandemic. Actually, it started in 2018, before I was city manager. In 2019, the organization, Doug was talking about doing RFP. The pandemic hits, everybody puts it on the shelf. And they got renewed earlier this year. And in conversations with CPS, certainly solar may be a thing we'll want to look at to put at city facilities, really to show more the demonstration that it works, and that it's more visible out in the public. But if I want to make a bigger impact in terms of the usage of renewable energy with CPS, then I can do a direct agreement with CPS to purchase power, renewable power from them. Now that to me makes a whole lot more sense than me putting solar panels on 80 different city properties, which would be cool for people to see, but a nightmare to administer and maintain. And I can achieve the same thing by utilizing and leveraging the purchasing power of CPS. And so that's just an example of things that I think we can do a better job of. Our housing programs, we spend upwards of 30. Oh, actually, this year it'll be close to $40 million in a number of different programs, housing rehab, roof replacements. CPS has a STEP program where they're doing weatherizations on homes. Guess what? The same applicants for the city's the city's housing rehab programs are literally the same applicants for the STEP program at CPS. So how do we collaborate and make one application form, use both dollars, both CPS and the city, and do as many homes as we can and not trip over ourselves? And those are two examples literally that we've just kind of worked out over here over the last 4 months. And I think there's probably a lot more we can do. And it goes back to that collaborative expectation that I think the public has, because the general public doesn't care about the emblem on the side of the white truck, whether it's SAWS, the city, or CPS. To them, it's all the city. And we should act like that as much as possible.
Couple things I want to tell you about, and you probably need to go. It's 8:31 and Mel's still ready. But two things from what you were talking about. Part of what we do in all of these collaboratives and at the intersection is trying to work together to be more efficient and effective. So we're not tripping over ourselves, right? So one of the things you had mentioned in a meeting last week about trees and funding for planting trees. So we already have a compassion tree project, but
good.
we're working with, we've done that for a couple of years, but we've re-upped and reworking with Parks and Rec in huge tree plantings in that compassion tree project with possible grants that people can apply for and plant at their organization, their school, their congregation, their church, place of worship. So working on that. We've also, and I'll send you some information and others as well, but in the last couple months, an international organization called Pro-Social World Research, funded by Templeton, lots of money, Harvard and Yale, but they've reached out and into San Antonio and are going to, in the next 6 months, researching how collaboratives work in San Antonio and what does that collaborative nature, they've noticed it.
Yeah.
And they're going to research it for us and for others too, right? But it will also have a survey to report back to you in about 6 months. So that,
you know what, and you know what, when you get that would be great to add to one of our core staff meetings, the one we had last Friday, to share with that larger group.
It's supposed to be done in May. That's
Okay.
their plan, May 15th. So I'll keep you posted. Thank you for being with us. If you want to stay longer, you're more than welcome, Eric, but we also recognize you might need to go. And we're going to hear about human services and what's been, because there's a lot. When Mel gave her report at our all staff this fall, I was blown away by it. I'm so proud. So
Good. And can I let me just thank everybody for allowing me to be here this morning, and thanks for inviting me. I hope everybody has a safe holiday season over the next week and a half or so. And I'm sorry, but I'm going to take advantage of the fact that Mel's on here, and I think it's probably good for all of you to hear. And I haven't had a chance to. I'll probably be looking for her later on this morning. Ann, Mel, how are we doing in terms of sheltering the homeless and unsheltered for the weather tonight? How are we? It might be good for everybody to hear that as well. Did Mel leave?
no, I don't
see
think
her
so.
anymore.
I just got it. Hang on.
I don't see her anymore.
She just got kicked out. I will tell you about the sheltering because I know about that. One, it's so much better in the organizational process this year. Every year it's gotten better, but I have just been so surprised this week about how quickly and well that all of that's been coming together in the 5, almost 6 years I've been. It's been like each year it's like, oh my gosh. And now this year it's just kind of come out so organized, so efficient, so beautiful. I've been sending out the information through our urgent action auto text system, as well as
Okay.
through our newsletters, but how to take care of ourselves, our homes, but also others and those that don't have shelter. All that information is out there, the kind of donations. I'm sure that Mel has more information, poor thing,
I will track
more
her down.
details, but I've put
Yeah.
out all the information. Coming
Yeah,
together.
well, and just so everybody knows, we started on Monday with all of our partner agencies to make sure that we start pulling people, making sure that the folks are available, know about the available space, and there are a
Mhm.
lot of folks that are working, or organizations that are working with the city, and a lot of the outreach teams have been doing work over the last couple of days to prepare for tonight and Friday night. So.
What I'd like to say is they're organized more than I've ever seen.
All right, we got to get it done.
Yeah, it's ahead of the thing, right? So far
Right.
ahead this time. I'm just so proud and happy about it. But, you start to see, like, Marjorie was the homeless administrator, and now she's like in Metro Health, but she laid a great foundation, and now we have somebody else. But it's just been, it's been spectacular to watch. And in years past, I almost shaved my head a couple times. It was so difficult.
There's Mel right there. Mel, you
There
dropped.
she is.
What did I miss?
Well, I was gonna, before I dropped off, I was gonna ask you to give everybody an update on helping the unsheltered over the last, getting ready for tonight and tomorrow night and Saturday and Saturday night. How we
Yeah,
doing?
I'll absolutely do that. We've been working really since late last week. We had met earlier in December on the 2nd with a pretty large group of our homeless services providers to come up with a plan on how we do this. And so the timing was perfect. And then early last week, or late last week, I guess, we started getting out there also with our partners and trying to find folks that were in their shelters, give them information about what was about to happen with the weather so they knew, handing out gloves and socks and blankets and those kind of things, and just, going back and trying to get people into shelters. Haven has opened their winter emergency shelter, so they have additional capacity for about 250. The communities under the bridge has opened for overnight sleeping, and they've got quite a bit of capacity. And so, we feel like there's enough beds. It's really important for us to find the folks and get them into shelter, because it's going to get seriously cold. But, it's hard when it's 50 degrees during the day and sunny like it was yesterday, and to convince people that it really is going to drop. So that's pretty much where all our efforts have turned. We have an outreach team of 11 people. And then we have a number of partners, both that we fund and from agencies all over that are out helping us. In fact, even, when weather is bad and there's the chance of flood, we even have our public works stormwater folks will go out and help us talk to homeless individuals that may be staying in drainage areas in order to get them to a safe place. So it really is a community partnership to get that done. And we have a lot of resources that activate when there's weather situations like this.
Okay.
Thanks, Mel. Now for the report, drum roll, please.
So, you all have experienced similar issues during the pandemic, and the just demand for additional services because of the impact of the pandemic on family finances and economic security. And it's been the same way at the Department of Human Services. And so, it's, our department has changed, I think, is probably the best way to say it. And it's tremendously. We've grown by 70 positions during the pandemic. through an influx of federal funding, but also significant investment of the city's general fund dollars. And so, across the community, across the country, even across the globe, social services programs really have been called on to do more since the pandemic, because we know that COVID exacerbated inequalities that we were already seeing pre-pandemic, really disproportionately affecting communities of color and low-income households. And so the need for assistance grew, and the city and congregations and community-based organizations stepped up when they were called on to help the folks that really suffered during the pandemic, and many that are still suffering. And, this is a calling for you all. And I want to thank you for the work that you've done to help families get back or stabilize. And, we just at Human Services, and I think as Erik mentioned a couple of times, we don't do anything alone. And these partnerships are invaluable. And so just in the last year, we've really started to get back to a semblance of normalcy. Our programs have forever changed in some ways because of the technology that we had to adopt, and the ability to serve people virtually instead of having them come to our offices for assistance if they needed it, take time off work, navigate transportation systems. They're able to, through their phones or through a computer, get the services that they desperately need. And so in fiscal year 22, to get to the part that Ann wanted me to really focus on. So for example, the number of children that we serve and are through childcare subsidies so that their parents can work or go to Ready to Work and get an education has grown by probably 50%. To about 17,000 children every year that we're putting in those subsidy programs. Our Head Start program this last year really came back up to its normal enrollment, almost 3,000 children. And then there's, through the influx of federal money, there's been a lot of quality initiative dollars we've been able to add to those programs. This last summer, our Ambassador College intern program that we had not operated the year before came back online in person, and we had about 200 college students that participated in that, as well as serving opportunity youth who are 16 to 24, not in school and not working, very disconnected from systems and the things they need. That grew, came back up to its more normal numbers, serving about 400 young people every year. And utility assistance, which has been a big issue for low-income families. We provide that assistance to more than 13,000 households, and that just continues. Like Erik said, there's really not a finish line. We're still seeing families that have quite a bit of debt to CPS because of pandemic and being unable to pay those bills. And so our financial counselors are also a big part of that response, serving about 5,200 residents every year with one-on-one counseling that helps them reduce debt, save money, and put their, really put their finances back together. And, an extension of that program through the pandemic has been to create a bank of benefits navigators. And, what their purpose really is to look through all of the resources that are available and that families may be eligible for, and to get them connected to those benefits for which they're eligible. And, I know Bill is on, and Sacred has been a big part of that. We use Sacred quite a bit to help families navigate those resources. We have a very small, compared to Ready to Work, job training program that is coordinating with Ready to Work. And we've had over the last year 64 households, and that really represents about 200 family members transition out of poverty through a case managed job training program and wage increase of nearly 300% of what they were earning before they started the program. And so through our partnership with Ready to Work, we are hoping to expand because it's been very effective. VITA program, we provided almost 26,000 households with income tax preparation assistance. It saves them an enormous amount of tax preparation fees, and returns about $50 million to the community into their pockets in refunds from the IRS. We really focus on getting people connected to the earned income tax credit and the child tax credit to make sure that they're taking advantage of that and effectively raising their disposable income or pay their bills. Through at first federal assistance, but now fully covered by the general fund, we have a homeless connections hotline, and they responded to about 20,000 calls over the last year alone to help families who are at risk of experiencing homelessness or have become literally homeless, get them either into shelter or housing, appropriate housing. And then our street outreach team that I was speaking about earlier, they're working with about, at any one time, 650 individuals on the street, case managing them, and then, having contact with many more than that, and responding to, many calls that come through 311 about homeless individuals that are needing assistance or homeless encampments that may be creating health or safety issues. And so we respond to those through that team. Our senior centers have reopened. They're serving meals now in their congregate setting. For 2 years during the pandemic, we were serving them curbside. And so people were able to drive through, pick up a meal safely, or several, to get them through the week. And so now we're back to full-time services in our comprehensive centers that provide fitness and arts and crafts and computer education, as well as a nutritious noon meal. And that's important because we had a lot of seniors really impacted by the isolation of COVID. And so seeing them back in the centers is, it's really one of the highlights of what we do. And then, the faith-based initiative, last but not least, engaged, about 2,400 community members in the first phase of the Compassion Institute. And that's really one example of what Ann and the faith-based initiative have accomplished. And, I know you've heard, you probably know more about that than I do, some of you, but Ann is always out there coming up with, really just turning on a dime to address the needs of the community. And so
You can use the words crazy ideas and keep
No.
with crazy ideas.
I saved that for our one-on-ones. And so, and I guess actually I would conclude with the efforts to serve migrants who are coming through the community on their way to destinations across the country. And, that's been in the news a lot. And we're working through it. We transitioned operation of the Migrant Resource Center to Catholic Charities on October 1st. And they are doing a terrific job with the number of migrants increasing every week. And so, we Title 42, which was keeping migrants from many of the many of the nations they were coming from in Mexico, was supposed to be listed yesterday. It wasn't. It's been delayed. We expect it to happen eventually, and that will increase the number of migrants coming through. And so we'll work closely with Catholic Charities and partners on how we address that, and work with the migrants that are coming through and get them to where they need to go. And so, we're ready for that. We have great partners, and that's, we'll continue to do what we need to do to make sure that the people are safe, the community is safe, and we don't end up with a significant homeless population because people are on the street. And so that's pretty much it for me. Do you have any questions?
Anybody have any thoughts or questions? I know that people have been putting in comments. We've gone way over our time, but I'm really grateful to both of you for hanging in there this long with us. Thoughts, questions for Mel? Yeah, Beverly put in Melody's department was able to address there. Here's Beverly. Hand up, go.
So again, Melanie, thanks for everything. Do you, in terms of the warming centers, we have some volunteer help with our Public Allies America members. Do you need additional help? If you do, please reach out, send me an email. We'll be happy to help out in any way we can.
That's fantastic, Beverly. Thank you.
Yeah. Because we're probably going to need some more volunteers and things just over the next couple days.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'll check in with our staff that are working with the homeless shelters that have opened up, and then we also have EOC that is opening warming centers for the general community.
Well, thank you both for your leadership and for coming this morning. You can always come to the intersection. You just let me know. If there's things that you want to talk about, things that you can use some help with, just let me know and we'll make that happen. We're headed right into one of those weekends and one of those weeks. I'm sure our retailers, because this is like the longest retail season. I used to be a retailer, so this is about as long as you can get it. And so they're really happy, and it does help our economy as well. So have great weekends, everyone. Lots of rest when you can get it. Don't overeat and try to not get the flu. If you can make that happen. I'm just using the mind trick. I'm not getting sick, even though my family all has the flu. I'm not, it's not happening. So we'll see how well that works for me. I'll let you know. So thank you all. Have great weekends.
Thank you.
I'll see you next week at the intersection.